Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today, my special returning guest is Mirakleking. Mirakle is the visioneer founder of the Camu University Institute. He is also a sacred sound medicine musician, breathlight.net director, self-care mastery counselor, MU Stars jewelry designer, and New Earth Destiny documentary filmmaker. Mirakle has a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Design from UC Davis, is a certified Sampurna Hatha yoga master and ecstatic dance music DJ known as Mirakle. Since the inception of his global ministry in 2003, he has led and co-facilitated life-affirming events with thousands of people all over America and the islands of Hawaii. He has led certification trainings, seminars, symposiums, ceremonies, and intensive retreats internationally in Canada, Costa Rica, Italy, Switzerland, New Zealand, Russia, Peru, Brazil, Bolivia, Bali, Japan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Mirakle has come a long way since his devastating accident in 2018, and the neuroscientists gave him the name Mirakle for the epigenetic, spontaneous regeneration work he actualized by creating a new spine with the divine in 70 dark nights. All of the links can be accessed through the description box below, and be sure to click on the link to hear more in more detail about his epigenetic adventure. And please do leave us a comment, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends. Mirakle, welcome to the Quantum Guide Show.
Hey, aloha, everyone. Great to be here, Karen, for round two. Yes, as we near this solstice window here.
Yes, it's a very exciting time. And I just also want to remind the viewers that Mirakle has been on the show before, and I've left the link to the episode also in the description. So I know you're going to want to catch up on that and learn more about his experience. So what I know you best for, Mirakle, is your epigenetic journey. It is so amazing. Do you want to explain to people a little bit about what epigenetics is, and to help them to understand that it's a real thing and it's real possible for all humanity?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, thanks, Karen, for the intro. Welcome, everyone. So grateful to be here. So epigenetics is basically the study of genes and their effect on, obviously, how we express those genes in our bodies, obviously coming back from our ancestors, from what we've inherited. But really what it is the biggest part of it is, in a nutshell, without going so deep into epigenetics, it's basically that a gene expresses itself, its inherent value within its DNA nucleotides. Like we have brown hair, we have certain, dispositions towards maybe cancers or other things that maybe our gene pool or bloodline has experienced, and then maybe we've gotten it. And really what it is it's actually really the study of how the environment affects the gene. So the gene expression is signaled, it's triggered, so to speak, by our environment. And so epigenetics is basically, well, if that's the truth, if that's something that's actually been proven, well, what if we create an environment that is not what we see, what we feel, what we sense, what we hear, what we smell, using our five senses, and create an environment that we have imagined, that we have aligned with, to either the future or something from the past, bringing it up to the future, so it becomes the ancient future, and bring it into the now moment so that we can signal a particular gene and express it in a new way. So if we trigger the gene by establishing an environment and a whole imaginative environment, an imaginative way, and actually do this kind of inner mental rehearsal work to reprogram our patterns, that includes our gene expression, then actually our genes can start to express in a whole new manner that is not dictated by the lineage or the DNA of our past. And so, in addendum, that being said, it's also part of that realization is that genes, they can express themselves like Christmas tree lights. Okay, so it's kind of like an example since we're coming up to Christmas here. And it's like Christmas tree lights. You can trigger one of those lights, and there's many lights. Let's say you have a whole tree and you've got like 100 lights on there, or whatever, 80 lights, and all those lights go on, right? But actually, you can actually program all those lights to only flash one of those lights. So if you could imagine that you have a gene that expresses itself in 80, 90, 100 different ways, right? And we've been pre-programmed, right, to express it only in this way. And so we inherit that program for that particular gene, and it goes on and on and on until someone decides, okay, to break that pattern, to decide that, no, we don't express and just turn on that particular Christmas tree light any longer. We're going to actually turn that one off, and we're going to express another light that's maybe on a whole nother pattern around on the other side of that tree that has never been expressed, but it's part of that same gene pool, gene encodement, and express it in a new way. So that's what's really interesting, is if you can, we can actually signal the genes to turn off and actually specifically signal genes that are there to express in a new way. Meaning it's not part of the old programming. It's not part of the old patterning, and it express itself in a whole new manner. So that could be, obviously something that's not laced in a pattern that's based on disease or illness, and express itself in a way that's healthy, that's vibrant, that's radiant, in particular to that pattern in the body, which relates to obviously, different areas of the body, the different systems of the body, different organs, different parts of the body, specifically to the three-dimensional matter-to-matter body.
Wow,
So that, in a nutshell,
it reminds me a lot of words like faith and prayer, how that would have an effect on the quantum field. And even when we go into studying quantum mechanics, because there is obviously a quantum aspect to our genetics, and the observer, what the observer believes, which again links back into faith and prayer, bringing the spiritual into the science, can actually alter our genetic expression from what you're saying. So this is very exciting stuff, because it means that we're not stuck with what we're told or what Wikipedia says is real, or Google. The power of our imagination and our spiritual capacity has a lot to do with how we are physically, I guess, on every level, spiritually, emotionally, and the cure is within.
Yeah, absolutely, 144%, Karen. We are at a moment in time where, we're obviously all in a collective transformational, some say dark night, some say, obviously I say it's the fertilizer for us to ascend into greater light frequencies that's coming from our sun, beyond our sun, beyond our sun. And, obviously all these solar flares are assisting this process right now, from our local sun Helios. But all of this is being brought up on the 3D because we have carried so many patterns from our lineage, from our ancestors, somatically in our bodies, emotionally, transpersonally, psychologically, sexually, obviously physically. And all of these patterns, even from other lifetimes, they're coming up with so much unified light hitting our planet right now. And the more that we can attune to that inner sun and really attune ourselves into this frequency, as you know, right? You've got the sun of the solstice on the background of your photo. And I've got the Om sign above me with the sun going out. And so there is this soul energy. It's really coming back to the bare, essential, primordial, merciful, kind, innocent soul nature that we are. And we have so many blankets and clothing and rags and even beautiful clothing and things, that material things that have covered us for eons of time. And all of this is being thrown off. It's being burned. We're realizing that we've carried, this baggage, so to speak, this clothing that's old, from other lifetimes, and even from our childhood conditioning, and obviously everything we've brought to the table in this life. And I really feel like that's another analogy to the epigenetic dialogue, because our genes represent almost like every article of spiritual to emotional, transpersonal, psychological, physical, somatic clothing that we wear when we open our eyes out of the dream state, out of the night dream, and we wake up in this daydream. And part of that is actually re-scripting that whole dialogue from within.
Yeah, fantastic. And I mean, it's beyond the scope of this podcast for me to get into some of my experiences, but I've actually had 2 cancer diagnoses that I walked away from the medical industry. This is not medical advice, by the way, but I walked away from the medical industry and I dealt with it in a spiritual way. And it was surprisingly easy for my symptoms to disappear very quickly, like within a matter of a couple of months. One time it actually happened over a weekend. Unbelievable. And so I am a firm believer in that. And that we are, it's kind of like being brave enough to make direct contact with the universal consciousness, at least for me, to be aware of this amazing power, and to be aware that this amazing power is aware of me. And in that connection, it's like a switch goes off and anything is possible. Anything. But the power of the imagination, the power of the pineal, the power that we have within us, and yet we're surrounded by a construct that makes fun of us or tells us this isn't real or this is fairy tales. And yet there's probably millions of people who are making it happen. People like you, people like me. So I'm very excited to have you on the podcast today. And I understand you're going to get into some ancient texts, leading us forward into the present and the future. And I'm just very, very excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I agree with you. That's wonderful news. I didn't know that you were able to completely clear your cancer diagnosis. That's wonderful news. Obviously, you know my story, and I also went through something like that as well, and I can talk a little bit about that. And then if people want to actually go deeper into that epigenetic becoming miracle and my SR, spontaneous regeneration, SH, spontaneous healing story, basically in a nutshell, it was actually 6 years ago that I walked on a balcony here in Ubud, Bali, and the balcony collapsed completely. And I fell about 33 feet and several stories. And basically I was in a very compromised state. I completely obliterated my lumbar spine and I was paralyzed. And so I had to go through a series of deep dives. I had several out-of-body experiences. which I talk about more in depth on my video. But basically, gist of it was that I had to prove not only to myself but to the medical world, and just in general, um, to walk this path to become just a normal human again, and to be able to, walk and run and not be in pain all the time, and obviously not be wheelchair bound. So I had to go through a really deep epigenetic process. I think on a neuroscience level, that's what we call it. On another level, it's, obviously for thousands of years, the mystics, the masters, um, in all the religions, the world's religions, including Yeshua and Magdalene, and just kind of the energy of the Christ consciousness. I mean, all of them exhibited miracles. They exhibited ways of going against what the three-dimensional world, and obviously the medical world, has always been around in some way, but it's there for a reason. It really helps with acute emergencies, and I'm really grateful for everyone who saved my life and got me to the point where I actually could do this work. But yeah, basically in a nutshell, I had to go through a metal-in surgery with almost 5.5 pounds of metal in my spine, steel and titanium, and then, which obviously saved my life. But then I realized, with the amount of pain and the amount of inflexibility I had, as someone who's been a somatic instructor, a dancer, a mover, a shaker, a yoga, I just couldn't maneuver. I didn't have my body, and I was very depressed. I was very miserable, and so I decided to go become a full miracle, and go down a route that very, very, very few people travel, especially with the spinal column, because it's one thing to remove metal from like your elbow or from your knee, but to actually do it in the lumbar spine, which really holds up obviously your thoracic, your cervical, and your whole head. Everything is, your tree of life starts with your lumbar, and it's the trunk and the base of the tree of our lives, right? And so I went down this road, and it was a very very challenging road. I had to go against a lot of what, like you said, a lot of what was said to me through previous ideas, whether they were medical or founded on the medicine world, at least the, what I call the white coats. And ironically, I also have, I was pre-med, and then I went more of a shamanic route, and I actually, half my family are nurses and doctors. So this is also going against the grain of my actual DNA, my bloodline, in some sense, to prove that, like, no, we don't actually need modern medicine to become an epigenetic miracle. And now at this point, I have gone through that. I went through that process, a 10-week process of basically being in a semi-light deprived dark room that I created in Singapore, and I was able to remove the metals, and work with the neuroscience team and several doctors to remove it, and basically go into the deepest dive of my life, the greatest initiation of my life so far, and become someone new. And for me, that was like, who is Mirakle, and what does he look like, and what kind of body does he have? And there's a lot of different psychics since then have said, oh, you've walked in and you've interfaced into this greater intelligence. And yeah, I agree with that, but I also am still who I am. And yes, I am someone new, even though I still have this same body, and there are people that knew me because I taught for 15 years. I was an influencer, as you've already read my biography. So I had a lot of influence, and I had a lot of kind of background of spiritual transformation, and obviously taught that and facilitated that. But obviously I couldn't do any of that anymore, and I had to become nobody, in nowhere, in no time. And that's the only way that I was able to actually turn off all the Christmas tree lights, no lights shining, and just go blank and go into the darkness, go into the nothingness, and go into the intelligence that is that actually is there for all of us in the void. And it is it's a supreme intelligence in the void. And and basically immerse myself, marry myself through all the pain and suffering, um, especially when all the metal was removed from my body. Then it was like, okay, this is the real deal, you know. Uh, you know, there's no going back. There's no putting the metal back into my body. You know, it's either all or nothing at this point. And there were no doctors that could tell me, hey, this is your timeline. You know, you're gonna have a year, you know, in the darkness. You know, some of them said, some of the neuroscience, some of them were like, yeah, maybe 6 months, but we don't know. We just don't know. No one's ever done this before. So that's basically the gist of that story. And obviously, there's more details. You can my testimonial on my YouTube channel, Communiversity Portal, and Becoming Mirakle is the title. But yeah, I feel like at this time, you know, so many people are going through processes and kind of delayering at even deeper levels, even like spiritual people and influencers. Because I kind of observe it now after 5 years now of becoming Miracle, since I had the metal out and I've been who I am now and doing the work I do now. Basically, I almost have like I watch like all these people on social media, from Instagram, Facebook to, you know, other social media platforms, influencing, you know. And it's just, for me, there's so much spiritual ego, and I was one of those characters, you know. And I still have an ego, I still have a personality, for sure, definitely. But it's just, it's really interesting to kind of graduate from something and then realize that the kind, I'm not saying everyone, but for the most part, generally speaking, the kind of spirituality that's being taught and that's being sort of dispersed out there through the social media these days is very superficial. You know, it's very it just seems to be that everything is so like instant ramen noodle, you know. And the depth of tradition, the depth of actually really going in to do the real dirty work, has kind of been thrown out the door. And that's been you know, that's been a little bit sad for me, coming back into the world to see that. Now, obviously, there are different other there are other incredible human characters that are doing amazing work too, that are attempting to help people to heal spontaneously. And I've been able to meet thousands of people who are on this path now in the last 5 years. The only difference is now I'm not like teaching in a really nice box in some resort where people fly in, you know. At least I'm not doing that now. We're working on a project that we're actually able to hold the space for a new type of box where light deprivation can be enhanced in a much more accelerated way, so that people can do this epigenetic work to spontaneously heal and spontaneously regenerate at a much more accelerated, and yet still honoring the process past of actually quantum regenerating. And so we're really excited about that. And yeah, I feel like this time is more than ever, you know, this embracing of the suffering, of the dis-ease. In fact, I just had a dear friend who I've known here in Bali for a long time, who's been also a teacher of movement and dance. She just got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And so she's been going through a lot of huge pattern interrupts. And just the other day, I was able to really do a deep dive with her after a session and just talk to her specifically about the things that are needed in order for us, because all of us who are going through these processes, like yourself, we're actually laying these, we're laying these breadcrumbs or footprints, so to speak, in the unknown forest, in the vast Sahara of the desert, where there are no tracks, and where do the people go? It's like Moses in the promised land. It's like, well, where do we go? It's the unknown. And that, I think, is the most challenging, and yet it's the most blissful part of the whole thing, is that our suffering, our traumas, our diseases, our illnesses, they take us down this path of having to go into this place where we have absolute no control. We have we cannot control anything, and we have to just keep moving forward. And even if that is like, crawling on all fours, tripping on ourselves, going through these processes of learning how to be a master of the unknown voidal intelligence, and discovering that in that process that we can paint a really clear picture in our true soul's desires of what we really want to see, not only for ourselves, but for each other and for this whole planet. Yeah.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. And it takes courage, but what I have found is that, and believe me, I'm not perfect at it. Please don't think that I am. But it's a bit of a challenge to have the courage to step into that. But at the same time, what I find is it's just lovely. It's a lovely environment to give up control and be met with nothing but love and non-judgmental and magic, and it's just such a beautiful place to be. I spend a lot of time alone because I get very distracted by people, places, and things. So I spend a lot of time. You could call it isolation, but for me, I'm not alone. I'm in this amazing state of being where I'm just experimenting and working on my own health and my own life. And I've never been happier, and I've never felt so well supported. Now, I know you wanted to talk a bit about some ancient writings or manuscripts or information that predates the Bible, and what that means for us. I'm sorry, maybe I have it wrong, but I can't remember the
No,
exact
not at all.
words that
Not
you
at all.
used.
Yeah, something I really, sometimes information comes to me. I'm really a synthesizer of information. I really, my greatest gift is synthesizing a unified field of information. And I feel like information communication, especially coming from a really clear, coherent space, where the brain and the heart and the body are on alignment, that the love and the energy of love can come through. And that information can help the brain come into alignment with navigating sort of this unknown desert landscape that we're moving into, and find trails in the desert, so to speak. And I really feel that a lot of the distractions of the world, with sort of the odd ones, the inorganic ones, these ones, the artificial ones, their job is to distract us. Their job is to attempt to bring us into these old patterns and these old ways and keep them perpetrating. And we all have them. Our parents had them, our friends had them, our family, our networks still have them. We all have them. But it's about catching them, changing those behaviors, those habits, and then programming them with the new timelines, the new energies, the new patterns, the new geometries. And what I found is that in the last couple of years, what gravitates towards me is different sacred documents and texts. And it has been my whole life, really. Even with being born from my mom, who is actually a philosopher whose family was into Confucius and Taoism, and then obviously coming over to the States and wanting to be in with the Joneses, so to speak. So I got, baptized as a Roman Catholic and went through, that whole process. And my father was a Shinto Japanese Theravada Buddhist. So I had the Buddha and the Christ in my life growing up on a religion scale. And I actually rebelled against both of them because I felt like the Bible was just really not the truth. It was really full of a lot of BS. There are some truths in it, but they're all hidden, and it's just a convoluted mess. But it's been done on purpose in order to distort and distract us from the veritable truth that comes from our own journey into experiential wisdom. And what I found is that there's these texts that have come to me that really they're all really when you go to the seed intelligence of all these texts, they're really just talking about the same thing. And I've been synthesizing, world's religions as well as indigenous ones for a long time, including like, Hawaiian Huna to obviously the Balinese way of looking at yin and yang, dark and light, and honoring those both, as well as sort of agnostic Christianity, different esoteric information, including the ascended masters, including obviously Christ consciousness, like Yogananda Babaji. All of this information for me is just, it's like distilling it. And this is actually what I taught for 15 years. I did trainings on this and then brought people into different sound vibrational experiences and movement experiential awakenings. And then obviously a type of breath work that I certified and trained people called breath light, and different forms of tantric meditation that came from Tibetan Buddhism and Dzogchen. So I've had at least like this long breadth of synthesizing information, which is really like the core value of why I'm still in a body, why I've been able to go through this process, was because on another end of the spectrum, I still have unfinished work. My mission is not complete because I have to not only bring out my personal story, which I'm hopefully going to finish in the next 6 months, and then also I've been working on this project Communiversity, it feels like for eons of time, not just this life, to kind of bring forth a new sort of very clear, blueprint of, Hansel and Gretel in the deep dark forest need these crystal breadcrumbs. And it's like I've got these breadcrumbs and I've been at the gingerbread house. I see what it looks like. I've been there. I've walked in it. And that is Communiversity. And now it's like coming back, following the breadcrumbs back out into, the cities of the world, the matrix, whatever you want to call it, the technocracy, and seeing all the people suffering and all the people being distracted by materialism and by AI and by faster, more, quicker, more money, more this, more that, and just becoming, robotic screen junkies. And now is the time to actually go back to that simplicity and spending more time alone and getting off the screens, like I've talked about, and I know you have too, because this is the only way that we can actually become multidimensional regenerative humans. And we have this capability of not only doing that, but being that, as well as thriving in it, and then inspiring others that are dealing with their issues and their karmic predicaments right now, collectively and tribally and familial wise, and also individually, and move through this portal of suffering so that they can eventually get to their own version of this. It's come to my attention. I'll actually just show you the book. This is actually one of many books written by this brother, Dave Greenleaf. And it's called Magdalene and Nassim Yeshua Jesus, A Cosmic Love Story, Introducing Magdalene's Teachings on Tantra. And this is actually a sort of an appendix subsidiary book of this really incredible synthesized, what I would say the true Aramaic scroll manuscript that would be the true Bible, called the Holy Megillah. And it's these Nazarene teachings on Essene peace and the path of peace. And it basically, if you can imagine that this came at a time where I was really looking at sacred union again, looking at the sort of the geometry and the epigenetics of sacred union, and how like the trinitization, even the trinitization, right? The first three, like in the Bible, it talks about, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, right? As we're moving into these holiday season. And that's actually distorted, because the first Trinity is actually the void, which holds the feminine and the masculine. And then the void births actually the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And they create a Trinity that is an equilateral triangle that's equal to each other, but it is the actual divine union. And they call it Yah. And then you have Jah and you have Jannah, and you have the feminine and the masculine, which are the iterations that come out of the void that holds, it's like the yin yang that holds everything interlocking in place. And then when it unravels, then you have two unique divine blueprint energies, which represent, the feminine, the Magdalene, and then obviously the sacred masculine, Yeshua. So you have the Lord Christ and the Lady Christ. And so this whole Megillah, which I'm still actually in the process of moving through it. I'm about a third done, because it's a very thick book. And I basically have been so enamored by this, because it really explains in the beginning what was taken out, and it showcases like very basic tenets. Like, for example, I won't go into all of them, but I will mention three. And the first one is that if humanity chooses just to eat vegetarian and to no longer choose, like, dairy and eggs are okay, but choosing to no longer, as a flesh hominoid species, to no longer kill, basically murder, sacrifice, raise, and then slaughter other flesh-bearing beings, sentient beings, then automatically we can start to change the vibration and the frequency of the planet. Two, so the first one is flesh not eating flesh. That's basic tenet. The second tenet is that, like I said, in the Trinity, it's like, no, actually, Mary Magdalene and Yeshua ben Joseph were equal. They had a conjoined ministry. When you actually read the Gospels and the Megillah, they're equal parts Gospels to the feminine and Gospels to the masculine. Unlike the Bible, it's all masculine, and it has been complete. It took out the feminine, dumbed her down, made her into a whore, made her lesser than. And this was all done by design. So putting her back on the right foot, so to speak, of the unified God goddess, or what they call as Yah consciousness, then we bring the Trinity back into its correct alignment, and you bring the equality back on a really deep unconscious, subconscious frequency level, which is really the basis of my work with Communiversity. Has been this geometry, is bringing that first back and healing that, right? Because that's a lot of healing for a lot of us. There's still a lot of men's circles and men's work that needs to be done, just as like the women are gathering, goddesses are gathering, doing the womb work, doing the wounding work. A lot of this is basic tantra, is healing these patterns of shame and blame and sexual misconduct, and all of this stuff. We all continue to, including me. And It's part of what the baseline is of my work at the community university, is that trinitization. Because once that trinitization is actually cleared and it's now locked in coherently, then it becomes that true geometry. And then you can actually then bring down the second equilateral triangle, which then becomes the star tetrahedron, right? The six-pointed star, which then becomes the basis of the 12-pointed star, which is the collective Christ Magdalene story. And then it becomes the 24. And then so and so. And this is also our DNA. That's why we talk about the 12, the 24, the 48, the 144, all these numbers like 24 strand. Well, it's because actually inside of our life, just these stories are outside, right? And we're reading them, and then we're processing them, we're integrating them, we're digesting them, and we're realizing, wow, that's actually missing story on the outside has been distorted because our DNA on the inside is missing.
Hi guys, break time for a short message. YouTube will not monetize me, so if you enjoy my content and want to support my efforts, help me to cover my expenses by visiting my shop to buy yourself a beautiful orgone generator. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand, and they are ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. They are only available through my website, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. Many people are finding comfort with Zendome's orgone generators, commonly called Orgonite. They are a simple compound which balance ambient energy by converting negative energy and EMF into positive healing energy with many easily confirmed health benefits. They are a simple compound with alchemic and energetic properties. These devices function as self-driven, continuously operating, highly efficient, negative to positive energy transmutation factories. They help diminish the harmful effects of electromagnetic frequency radiation by attracting and converting negative energies, retuning them into new and more healthful sound and light wave patterns. And they help to purify the atmosphere and accelerate plant growth. They also help stimulate positive mood and are a natural remedy for poor sleep patterns. When Orgonite is within range of any corded or wireless electronic device, it will efficiently and continuously transform that energy into orgone as it is being transmitted. This essentially creates orgone energy transmitters out of any and all emitters of harmful negative energy. You can use these devices for focusing the mind, healing, meditation, and for spiritual growth. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand of orgone generators, and they are only available through my website. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out my website to see my latest selection at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. That's KarenHolton healthcoach.com. Check them out today. Now, let's get back to the show.
And so now reading things like the Holy Megillah, it brings us back into things that are not missing anymore. And as long as we can come into that understanding that we are equal and also get the original story, which was not distorted, which I really feel the Holy Megillah really is translated from the Aramaic into English, tells these stories that are just so real. And they're just like things that we're doing today that they were doing couple thousand years ago. And they're very funny. They're full of love. They're full of compassion. They're full of mercy. They're full of kindness. None of these stories are in the Bible that the world's religions have propagated. And this is part of what the Megillah talks about, is that this is during this time of the Great Shift that only the Megillah would start to come out, because it's safe enough to come out. Because in many times since thousands of years, if you had the Megillah, you could be arrested. You could be killed for having a document of the Megillah. So this has come out in a very, and still to this day, the excuse me, I'm still getting over a little bit of a under the weather cough myself. But anyways, what's been really fascinating for me is to really learn about things that I feel like I already done, not only in my groups and with other beloveds, including women that I've taught with, as well as been in conjoined experiences with and facilitated with. But also like, it's almost like it mirrors, when something mirrors something you've known all along, and you just get chicken skin every time you read a new gospel, and you're like, wow, like this is just really something that I've been searching for all my life. And for sure, I'm sure that I've been a part of this. I know I've been part of many of these teachings. I have a whole past life with Miriam and Yeshua, where actually I played a Roman centurion. That was actually, I was a leader of a whole centurion. Basically, my job was to take out the Essenes. I had a life where I was trained to be someone that was supposed to take out these heretics. And instead, what it was is I heard and saw and had an awakening in that life. And this was probably, I think, 900 years ago, one of my many lifetimes. And I actually converted. I repented in that life, and I became a protector of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene's whole community and nomadic tribe, and how they were ministering to, the different areas of what is now Israel, and these areas are obviously going through a lot again, Palestine. So this is all really old stuff, but I think really what is, and that leads me to the third point that I would just mention with the Holy Megillah, is one of the tenets, the third and final one. There's many others, but basically this one I felt was important to share, is that nowhere in the normal Bible does it talk about self-defense, a Gandhi-like nonviolent defense. Go to war, go to battle, but be nonviolent. And learn how to train the body in health. And they have whole gospels on health and practices for health and herbology and connection with different martial arts that they call Zion. And basically, which later translated into Shaolin, the Shaolin monks, which are very much about martial defense. It's a non-violent martial art, but obviously it's there to defend the weak, the children, the ones that are needing to be defended. And there are whole storylines that talk about this in the Megillah. It talks about being nonviolent in being nonviolent in an arena of people who are attempting to take you out and to process, well, just to actually make sure that you don't exist anymore. And this is what these inorganic ones have attempted to do, and they have failed every single time. So, that I think is what is really, excuse me. I think really and I feel, actually, my body obviously feels that so many of us have had lifetimes where we've spoken up for the truth, in our community, in our villages, in our cities, citadels, in our countries. And we have, we've experienced a lot of trauma from that. We've experienced betrayal. We've experienced even very deep suffering from it that has then carried over to other lifetimes. And I really feel whether obviously we were in alignment with the Nazarene scenes and the Holy Megillah, or some diversion or iteration of it. And now we're at a time where we're seeing this happen with AI. We're seeing this happen with the artificials and the inorganic ones. They're using their powers of fear, manipulation, and control to attempt to, completely take away the freedom of choice, take away these, basic democratic principles. And I think this is obviously by design. This is something that they've done in many iterations in many civilizations, and to many of us, those of you who are watching the call, you can relate to this. And now it's the whole world. So we're in planetary karma, so to speak. I talked about this last time. And so as much as we can do as individuals, we have to come together as collective group consciousness, as a collective avatar, as not just locally with our physical body, but also, online, which is what a lot of people are doing. But I really feel it also has to be done locally. It has to be done physically with others. Because if we're only online all the time, then what happens when all those networks are shut down because we say something? This is happening all over, like YouTube, and even to myself. My last video, I had to move to Rumble a few months ago, and I've actually subsequently not really posted much, because so much of what I want to say is based on truth. And if I'm just going to put out transmissions that are just going to be flagged, and then all of a sudden I'm banned, then what's the point? But obviously there are many other people who are attempting to really bring that out as best they can on alternative platforms. But I'm just saying this isn't going to stop. And I think one of the things is that it's forcing us to realize that we have a responsibility, a universal responsibility, because our planetary karma is evolving into interspecies and interstellar karma. And we are becoming a galactic connected species. And, for the inorganic ones, the odd for me stands for organized darkness, OD. These beings are they don't know any other way. They're so afraid of the unified light. They're so afraid of the divine intelligence in the void, that the only way that they can feel that they can get energy and feed is off fear. It's off, obviously all of these blood rituals. This is their food, and so they're doing everything they can because they are so afraid of what's happening with our sun and the great central sun, and our entire universe is transforming so rapidly. And there's, on the same time, there's so much of this dystopian darkness, but there's so many photonic neutrino light frequencies, gamma rays, and that are moving people into gamma brainwave states that are having instantaneous, spontaneous, breakthroughs. And I think that's what's really, really, it's what really gets me up every day to continue to do the writing, as well as work on the projects that I'm working on, because I feel like the more that each individual chooses to embrace their heart, their mind, especially the pineal gland, and clear it, and really spend time alone, and spend time connecting in their alone time to their all one, because aloneness is really all oneness. And then we can atone and be at one with the moment. Atonement. So when we're at one in the moment, in our all oneness, then we can really receive these exquisite, blissful, extraordinary future now visions, dimensional realities, parallel realities, timelines and dimensions that are giving us information, making not just first contact, but second contact, third contact, and on and on and on. 12th dimensional contact, 13th dimensional, and beyond. It's becoming multidimensional. And for me, it's really about moving into this frequency and vibration of light fasting or light deprivation, and spending more time going into the void. And the easiest way to do that is obviously, you know, either getting a mask and meditating so that, you know, you're going into the darkness and becoming one with the darkness, so that the light, once you come out of the darkness, you see with your real eyes, you know, because your real eyes all of a sudden spontaneously give you the ability to realize, self-realize what is happening right now, divinely here. And another excellent way is to spend longer periods, and this is why we're working on a light deprivation project, a new kind of technology that will allow interology to really expand and heal and open up and regenerate and actually clear, clean, and actually experience DMT, which for me is really the thing that is, you know, because our pineal gland is this radio transmitter, and it gives and receives transmissions. And so when it's shut down or it's calcified, we're not able to actually transmit and direct to Yah consciousness, direct to God consciousness, Mother, Father, God intelligence. And this is the one thing that we most, I think, more important than ever, the heart as well, and obviously our health, but to do this inner work to open up and clean and clear the pineal gland and the pituitary gland and all of our brain functions, so that we can actually receive this encodement, you know, that is a thriving, living prayer, instead of a prayer that's like, oh, Mother, Father, God, I need this, I want this. It's actually a thriving, unified, living prayer where we are it, and we can actually rehearse inside on the interology, as opposed to all the technology, what it is that we truly desire for not only ourselves, but our beloveds, our families, our children's, the future of the human race. How would we see that? How would we feel it? How would we walk in it? How would we move in it? How would we merge with it? How would we co-create in it? What does that feel like? You know, what is the actual taste and touch? And to do that in the almighty darkness and connect with the divine voidal intelligence within that darkness, it's absolutely profound. And obviously, I'm someone who's been you know, I'm an example of what happens when you can go into light deprivation for long periods. And there are many others too. You know, it is actually becoming more popular. There are even very famous sports athletes that are actually going into light deprivation now and having profound experiences, you know, realizing they don't need to do all the plant medicines, the different things, that they can move beyond the plants and go endogenously and epigenetically rescript their entire blueprint, their destiny, to align with their soul and to help others and serve others. And I think that's really the biggest thing, because there are things in the material five sensory world that have not come into this now moment, but there are prophecies that others have spoken about, that as we move through this solstice portal, which for me really is actually the new year, it's that point where then it triggers the next wave cycle. The solstice is, and for you guys it's winter solstice, we're summer solstice. So we're going into this inflection point, and in this inflection point, this access point, we can actually bring out this seed of intelligence and rescript these new timelines. And I really believe that old timelines and old prophecies, because there are quite a bit of some doom and gloom things, you know, I have my sort of my thumbs on the pulse of the collective, and I like to see things from all angles, not just from the light, but I also see angles from the dark. So there's ignorance confused on one cycle, the odd ones, I see it from their angle, and then I see it from the curvature of time space, which is infinite existence, bliss, absolute. And I see all of it because that way I'm synthesizing a gnosis, a knowledge of everything in the now. It's a ledger of the now, which is basically what knowledge is. And so when we take a ledger of the now, we're able to actually use that ledger, use that information to communicate in a way that can help people shift their own point of view reality, their own acupressure point as they're walking and traveling or stationary around the planet. And then we can create this new neural network. And a lot of us are doing this work. We're not even, it's not even choice anymore. You know, we're doing it in the waking dream and dreamless states. We have to, because we're all being lensed right now as a collective lensing to focalize our energy on these new Earth or now Earth timelines. Because, you know, without even giving them any more energy, there are plenty of doom and gloom timelines, you know, with the AI and the collapsing of the economic system and the banks and, you know, the CBDCs and all this stuff. You know, these digital currencies, these digital passports, and the social, you know, hierarchical credit systems, social credit systems themselves. I mean, these are all supposed to come out this year of 2024, or at least there's going to be some kind of pattern interrupt, some other kind of major false flag, you know, whether it's a cyber attack, whether it's you know, whatever it is, right? But if we can now, right now, in this moment, if you're listening to this, if you can choose to start to do the deep meditation alone, go into the dark, get a mind mask, you know, you can go online to Amazon and just order one, and start to go into the dark yourself and start to rescript what it is, even if you're healthy. I do this work every day, you know, every day I leave at least, you know, a couple hours to do this work. Whether I fill that couple hours, it depends on the day, but I at least leave my time to do this work and go into rescripting our day reality as well as future timeline realities, and really connect with others. It starts to become the darkness, the voidal intelligence. I want to say the unified darkness, because I'm talking about darkness in different ways, but the unified darkness has an exquisite intelligence, and that intelligence can only be merged and really married with when you're in deep states of meditation, when your brainwave is in alpha theta, when it's in you know, when it's in these alpha theta states, when your autonomic nervous system is super relaxed and your amygdala is not in fight or flight or stress or anxiety, you know, because that just propagates more fear and more of the food that gives the inorganic ones or the odd ones, you know, their dinner. So why would we want to feed them? You know, just turn it off and lay down or go for a walk, or, you know, do some different types of meditations and many different, you know, influencers and facilitators. And, you know, this is really the work, because I was on my third point going to start to really talk about some of these prophecies, but I actually feel like it's not necessary, because most of us already feel it. We sense it. You know, we sense it before we go to bed. We sense it before we wake up in the morning. We just sense this, like, something collectively is off. And we have to embrace that feeling of feeling off. And even if we're personally feeling healthy and we're feeling good and we're doing our work, we still have to embrace that sense of feeling off, because it's a collective unconscious offness. It's not going to go away now. And what it's saying, it's almost like it's puncturing this collective helium balloon. If you can imagine a helium balloon, and it's slowly puncturing it, you know, and all of us are feeling that puncture, because we know that something's going to pop and everything is going to change. Everything is going to transform. And if we can embrace that and not the actual whatever it is that's going to pop it, finally pop it. Excuse me. yeah, if we can embrace the actual letting go and the surrendering that happens after the pop, then we're kind of already ahead of the game. You know, we're not being led on the hunt and the chase of the game. We're ahead of the game. We're already at the other side. And that's why, you know, a lot of people look at me as a futurist, not in the sense of like technology, but in the sense of like, you know, my whole thing is, you know, my teachers are the masters, you know, the masters who came from the future, which is really the ancient times. And it's an ancient future prophecy. And we know that everything that is seemingly bad and terrible, from war to children being killed, to, you know, the rapes and the murders, and to the rituals, the sacrifices, you know, all of these things that, what do? Well, they bring, they slow down the frequency of our vibration. And so we're here to accelerate the frequency of the vibration. So instead of it being higher self or lower self or better or worse, we can just look at it as like, how can we be a master of frequency and vibration? How can we acknowledge that, okay, that's a very slow density. That particular pop, maybe it's not the big pop, but there's these mini pops happening, right? That are slowly going to be the big pop. Okay, we're watching that. We're realizing something like Ukraine and Russia was a pop, you know, but it wasn't the big pop. You know, the invasion or the whole Hamas, Palestine, and then the Israeli was another pop, you know, but it's not the big pop. You know, these volcanoes, the natural disasters, you know, potential another COVID pandemic, you know, all of these are all potential. And that also, and I do this too, I have to clear this too constantly, because we're just taking in all this information, and I'm not a person who's always just like in denial. I don't bypass. I accept information. I try to discern through it, even though there's a lot of false flags. There's a lot of, you know, psyoping of videos and information. You know, it's hard to discern and decipher what's real and what's not because of AI now. AI can create these deep fakes. So, but regardless, we can still trust our heart intelligence. We can still trust, is this real? Is this true? And then, because if we deny it, we're actually not assisting the unconscious collective. Because if we deny it, if we bypass it, and I see a lot of, you know, bubbles, including here in Ubud, Bali, it's a bubble. A lot of spiritual people here, a lot of seekers, right? But a lot of them are bypassing, you know, and that's okay at first, because you need to work on your own stuff. But eventually, you know, we're not going to have the time to bypass anymore. We have to do the work of helping those that are being infiltrated and have been sucked into this artificial world, because there has to be some of them that, in our mercy and our kindness, in the reason we're overflowing, to help them, give them the information, give them, you know, the keys to know how to change their own storylines and their own narratives, and get out of this false one and become, you know, part of the natural intelligence again, become part of the organic intelligence, become part of this holistic patterning that is based on wholeness, you know, based on the field of wholeness, the field of unity. And so, you know, we are in this unified field gateway. We are in this process and patterning where I do feel like we've had a lot of pops in this helium bubble of who we are as this, what is humanity? Who are we, you know, as a species? And now it's coming to the crux, you know, of you know, this big pop could happen. And I know there's a lot of people talking about this right now, psychics, channelers, you know, you name it. Everyone feels it. And I do as well. I'm sure you do, Karen, as well. And I think what we have to do is embrace the pop and then move our consciousness to, who are we beyond the pop? Who are we beyond some massive, devastating disaster? Who are we beyond that? What is our constitution? You know, how are we serving? You know, what is our energy level like? How are we supporting, assisting not only our families, but other people in our lives, our children, how are we helping them to move beyond this potential, pop of this disaster, and that whether that disaster is environmental, whether it's economic, whether it's man-made, man-created, by these inorganic ones influenced by the sphere of manipulation, control, because a lot of innocents are being seduced by this artificial energy, and some of them are also partial. They're in between right now. So it's a real I mean, honestly, I know and I feel from who I am that we have all, if you're on this planet, you've incarnated to be a part of this process. You already pre-selected to be a part of this. Are all the human particles and the souls that are in those human particles, little particles on the Gaia consciousness of her body, because she has a soul, are they going to choose to go into the great unified wave that is, traversing through our galactic center, that's moving us through our universal intelligence and asking us to become one with, the multiverse, the infinite cosmos. And that is our birthright. That is the birthright of our soul intelligence. It's the birthright of our soul star stellar intelligence, to the unified field presencing of who we are in the I am. But the I am is now having to come together to become we am, or we are. And who are we together? That is, for me, my version of that, I've done this work to imprint as much as I could to the people around me, to my students, my clients, my friends, my family, my bloodline, as well as spirit family, soul family, tribe, communities around the world, as best as I could, to give my version of that. And I know many others are actually doing it, and others have ancient future now visions. And that's what Communiversity is. It's a vision of the future on 1,000 acres, imagining 1,000 universities like this around the world, where the whole educational paradigm is pre-built and preconceived within a resilient, self-realized community. So you bring a university curriculum and you make Communiversity, which is spelled Communiversity because in ancient Hawaiian, Kamu means the great silence after union, which is basically what these beings were teaching, And so they were teaching that everything is equal to itself, that the feminine and the masculine are one. We are not separate. We go through our process together. There's not just a physical marriage, there's a sacred union marriage. There's a heros gamos within ourselves and with each other. And through that, we can't help but want to share with others, not only our love, but our teachings. And that's how we create this spin, this tube torus, this double helix, this torsion field that will then help assist others in our sphere of influence, whether that is online for however long it lasts for, or actually in person, somatically, with touch, with consciousness, with different practices like tantra, yoga, and movement. And these things are important because it brings us the joy of being human, the joy of being a divine, sentient being in a flesh suit. And this world originally was, part of the celestial heavenly worlds. It was part of, it was first conceived as a place where this experiment could actually be propagated for all. And it's never been done before. With the amount of different seedings of intelligence from around our universe and even beyond our universe here right now, it's never been done before. So that's why this is on the big screen for so many different other sentient races, and they're here just watching us with unconditional love. And, but we have to do the work. The masters always said, at this time, it used to be you had to do 99% of the work, we'll give you 1%. especially during their times, a few thousand years ago, when it's very dense, the planet. Now, even though we're having terrible things happen, it's because the whole planet is awakening. And in awakening of a whole planet, we each individual cells have to say, okay, I take universal responsibility for my part in that divine awakening of the whole planet. Because if I don't, then I'm allowing the unconscious, more controlled dystopian narrative to become our reality. And we are living in a contested planetary experience right now. And it is quickly falling, but in that fall, we can use that as fertilizer to ascend and to bring the true energy, vibration, frequency, teachings, experiences, information, and share it, make it shareable, and help others to come together to do this work. And obviously, I'm talking more about the spiritual work, but it also includes growing our own food and different type of syntropic agriculture, permaculture experiences. It's having safe houses to do womb work and water womb work and bathing rituals, and there's just so many parts of Communiversity. It's a living ecosystem. It's a thriving ecosystem. People can go to my website and check it out if they want more information. Communiversity.org, KAMU university.org. Maybe you can leave a link for it. This is still valid, but I think for me, what I've realized is that going into the dark and really embracing the dark and loving it and marrying it is the greatest choice that we can give to humanity right now. And then once we come out of that, do what we need to do, what we're guided to do to help serve others in this self-realization process for the collective awakening.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, we're coming close to the end of our time. I'm wondering, can you, thank you so much. It's such an inspirational message, and it reminds us why we're here and that it's not going to be easy and nobody's going to do this work for us. So we may as well jump in, and there's enough of us that are doing it that we can say, yes, it's definitely worth the effort. But I'm wondering if you can share with the listeners and the viewers what your offerings are, what you bring to the table, how you can help people, and everything from your jewelry making, to your university, everything, and also where people can find you, because some people will be listening to this on an audio podcast. And although the links will be in the description below, it's just nice sometimes for them to listen to hear, oh, that's where I can find Mirakle, and then go look for you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Karen. Mahalos, everyone. So great to speak about some of the things that are so dear and near to my heart. And yeah, to be really honest, at this moment, I've been really on the back end of working on. We actually just finished the pitch deck for this project of light fasting technology, and it's called Zero Light. And basically, we're really seeing it as revolutionizing the meditative process by immersing oneself into a dark room. Which dark room retreats are all around the world, from Montauk Chia to Jazz Mohin to some others in Mexico and the States as well. And we're really excited about getting this out. We're in a funding phase, so I've been really busy working on sort of the back end to bring out something very unique that obviously I have a lot of experience in, and I want to help as many people to be able to become their own version of their own miracle for what people are going through right now. And this is the best way I can do it. So as far as obviously I have material out there that has been from the past, including breathlight.net, which is my whole training for 15 years on breath work. You can find some breathwork material on my YouTube channel. You can watch many videos that I have different offerings there for free. And that's on Communiversity Portal. That's on YouTube. And obviously, my communiversity.org project, my last iteration, which is the second iteration of work and team building, has come to a close. So right now that's kind of on the back burner, so to speak, because we've been working on this life fasting technology. But once it's a bridge, the life fasting technology is bridging back to Communiversity. I hope to really be team building again for that here in Bali come the new year. Also been working on finally finishing my own narrative story to help people hear about the different experiences that I have, obviously done in my life, not just in becoming Mirakle and epigenetically regenerating my spine, but I've had many very, very powerful transformations with different divine intelligences and the unified master family that overlights us all. And that's all going into the book. Many different, very powerful, life-affirming medicine stories of dealing with challenges and obstacles, and going through different rites of passages myself, and experiencing different CD-like powers that I know many people are doing now to this day all around. People are experiencing magical, occult, mysterious, but they're not really mysterious. We're just demystifying what has always been available to us. We are very powerful beings. We have the ability to do many things, not just regenerate our bodies or spines. And then that being said, I'm also, I have taken a little bit of a step back from production in the last few years of designing my talismans and my different accessories that really enhance the body and help people to remember through crystal energy and through working with silver and gold with my team. And so I've really kind of had to leverage, all of these different things that I'm doing. But I definitely still have a website, moostars.com, mustarz.com. That's my accessory high boutique design line. If you're interested in any pieces, I'm on Instagram, mu_stars, STARZ. And I don't really sell online anymore. It's more like in person. I do have a few clients in the past who still routinely get things from me. And they just reach out to me through email and through either, Telegram, WhatsApp, Signal, all these different ways of connecting. So I have done some work with individuals. I've kind of stopped that since I've moved back home to Bali 3 months ago. But there is availability next year if people are wanting to work with me. I now enjoy more one-on-one work. Mm-hmm. And I prefer not to do that online, but if it's needed, I can do stuff online, of course. I prefer people to actually fly. They've either flown into Mount Shasta, flown into Bali, flown into Kauai, flown into Hawaii. Now that I'm in Bali, I'm going to be here at least for the next 6 months. So if you're coming to Bali and you want to do some work with me, you can reach out to me. I can send you my white sheet on the protocols for working with the Mirakle method.
Wonderful.
And, that's about it. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on all the socials.
Yep.
But I also try to spend less time on it. And,
I know.
To the waterfalls and garden and spend a lot of time out into nature because there's plenty of it here on this island of the gods. And I'm definitely very blessed to be here and so grateful to sharing these messages to all those that are open to Mirakleking.
Yeah, wonderful. And what a perfect time. The solstice, we're slipping from one system into another one. And I'm just loved your message so much. And it's very inspiring. And it helps us to see that we're not the only ones that are going through trials and tribulations. It's a group effort, but it's kind of like having a baby. It's quite the experience to give birth. But once that baby's here, oh my God, you would never trade it for anything else. It was all worth it. And so that's sort of how I look at it. So I'm very, very pleased to have you on the program today, and I wish you every success. And I also want to thank all the viewers and the listeners for being with us and joining us today. I appreciate you all so very, very much. And I guess that's it for the show for today. Again, the links will be in the description below. And Mirakle, I wish you the best year ever coming up, and much success with all that you're doing. And I guess that's it. And we'll see everybody next week on the Quantum Guide Show. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton, and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.